without further ado, let's get 2 minutes on the clock, and your time starts now. All right, time is up, and let's get through some of the answers here. Now, there's going to be lots of things that could be happening as to why Zara might be experiencing worsening symptoms or changes in mood despite the ADHD diagnosis and medication, which has previously held things in control. Fantastic guidelines available for this, which I would strongly recommend every GP become familiar with. These are relatively new, and so I think it is one of these things that we are seeing so many new cases, so many new presentations, just as important, so much public interest in ADHD and potential diagnoses or misdiagnoses. This is something that I think we're really obliged to know a fair bit about. Now, in this instance, we have the diagnosis, we have medication, but we're still seeing troubles. What could these causes be? Lots of things. We could be seeing tolerance to the medication. So it may actually be that the medication dose as prescribed is insufficient. There could be abuse of medication as well. These are stimulant medications that unfortunately do have abuse potential, and it may be that she's not using it as prescribed. Kind of the opposite of that in some ways is forgetting or poor compliance with the medication. So it may have held things in check previously because it was being taken consistently, and now, unfortunately, maybe not. And there could also be coexisting other psychiatric conditions such as anxiety disorder or depression. I think as long as you're giving any kind of sensible response, you're going to be getting the mark there. Now, we are using stimulants, but there may be other substances being used or abused. You could also give specific examples here, and I think anything in that kind of family would be grouped and giving you a mark there. Teenagers, sleep, always going to be an issue, and I think it's always something worth exploring, particularly with any kind of changes to mood as well. Exploring that as well, you're also going to get information, collateral history for things such as underlying anxiety and depression. Now, we could also be seeing an underlying medical condition such as thyroid dysfunction. Again, I think as long as you're putting some kind of sensible option in there, you'd be getting marks. Hearing or vision impairment, which I know it sounds silly when we're talking about a 17-year-old, but you can have people who are diagnosed with these things very late in life. They've found ways to cope or adjust in some way, shape or form for a very long time before it's been detected. I myself only got glasses when I was 19 years old, I think, when I was just getting headaches all the time whenever I was staring at computer screens, which at that time were becoming more and more prevalent. And I just thought, oh, this is how everyone is. And I'll never forget, and you'll hear this from everyone that wears glasses, that the first time you put them on and you say, oh, those are leaves. I can see leaves. It was a very exciting moment. For me at least. Okay. Moving on. I have specified anemia here. I know we've already kind of said any underlying medical condition. I think anemia is probably worth having as its own special little thing, partly because so many things can cause anemia. But this is something that I think in a 17-year-old, multiple potential causes, and would definitely be worth exploring as its own individual point. Again, if you're not familiar with these guidelines, grab them, read through them, at least the summary table. The summary table is pretty nice and relatively concise, but is an excellent point to just kind of brush you up and kind of get your knowledge up to date. Of course, we have more questions, so let's put 2 minutes on the clock and your time starts now. All right, time is up. And I think this is something that we're all relatively familiar with, all of the pharmacological management options for ADHD diagnosis. Of course, there's so much more to ADHD than just stimulant medication or medication in general. And so I think it's really important that you do have a good hold of what are the things that we should be doing alongside that. And in fact, there are many, many cases of ADHD that are managed just using non-pharmacological interventions. And I think as well, there is a bit of stigma now for those who are exploring diagnosis that, oh, you're just after medication. And sometimes that might be true. But again, I've had probably just as much success with people just undertaking these non-pharmacological management options in terms of getting their life back in control again. Of course, easy marks if you throw in CBT, everyone's favourite. And of course, avoiding abbreviations. There it is. Avoiding abbreviations, cognitive behavioural therapy. A big part of ADHD management is also about structured routines. And it may seem a little bit odd, telling a 17-year-old to enforce a structured routine, but it does make a massive, massive difference. Tied into that as well, we know that regular moderate exercise, 30 minutes per day, at least 5 days per week, also has profound impact on ADHD management and symptom control. Other strategies such as mindfulness or meditation, again giving some centering and ability to de-escalate. A big part of managing ADHD is also about the parental and family training. A lot of groups that manage particularly younger kids with ADHD diagnosis is actually centered around educating the parents more than anyone else. Now, we are still in high school. It has specified that in the STEM, and so really important to note that high schools also have incredible support services and counselling services available and would definitely be worth tapping into in this instance. And of course, there's also your usual support groups and online services that could also be tapped into as well. So lots of potential answers there. Hopefully you've got a few down yourself. This is again one of those situations where you're going to have multiple options available to you with only fewer that you can put in. So try and prioritise the ones that you think are going to be most important, most applicable to the patient case. In this case, pretty much all a fair game, given there's not a whole lot to go on in terms of which direction you should be taking. All right, now we have another question, so let's get 2 minutes on the clock and your time starts now. All right, time is up. And again, this is one of those questions, and you will see ones just like this in the actual exam, where they're really steering you towards answering in a particular way. So obviously lots of things can cause loss of weight in a 17-year-old female, but they're focusing in, they want you to really focus on the medication being the potential cause here, and what are the things you can do around that. Again, going through some of these guidelines here, and this is something that you will see not uncommonly for particularly younger people, I think, with these kinds of medications. Taking the medications either with or after food rather than before meals is shown to boost weight or at least minimize weight loss. Taking additional meals or snacks earlier in the morning or later in the afternoon when the stimulant effects have actually worn off will also increase weight gain. You can also refer to a dietitian for meal planning or dietary advice. You can just encourage higher calorie foods of good nutritional value. Or taking a planned break from treatment. Now, that one there wouldn't get you marks because in particular, she's actually advised that she wishes to remain on the current regime. Similarly, trying to change or stop medication, which would be a potential option just in general, isn't going to get you any marks in this case because she said that she's keen to remain on the current regime. This is one of those cases where you have to read the question being asked and make sure, yes, they're valid treatment options, but not applicable to this particular case. So always read the question being asked.